Hey y'all, how's it going? This is the second video for Lab 3 for HiFi 333 motor control. So, that was a big sigh. Wow. All right. So what I've got here is I've got trial 7 through 16, and we've got left force, right force for unilateral trials, left and right EMG for the unilateral trials, left and right force for the bilateral trials, left and right EMG for the bilateral trials as well. The very first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert some columns. So that's just all I'm doing is right clicking, then insert. Oh, hey, and so let's say I insert two, but I want to delete a column. So I right click and then I just hit delete, and it goes away. Okay. So the first thing that I want, or not now, the second thing. I don't know how to count. Please don't hold that against me. um, is I'm going to take the sum. And so Excel gives some syntactical hints here. So we can go sum of this number, comma, and this number. And if you want to do that, that's great. Um, there's another way that you could do this, and that would be to go to click and drag over. So that's F3 colon G3. And so if there were more rows or more columns here, excuse me, if there were more columns and we wanted to select all of those columns, this would be a much easier way to do that than selecting each cell individually and hitting the comma. Okay, we'll get more into that and use some more of the syntax a little bit later, but that's sufficient for now. So we can take the sum of that data and we can double click and go down. So what I did there, I just undid I'll go to the bottom right corner, get this little box there, double click, boom, there you go. And so the next thing that I want to do is I want to copy, and then I'm going to paste, okay? But I'm going to paste the formula because I don't want to paste the number, and I don't want to necessarily do any of these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just paste the formula in, and then I'm going to double click down, okay? Another way that you could do this, because I like trying to show you multiple ways to do things, is I could just take that and I could just copy, and it'll copy and paste the formula in just like so. Okay, cool. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to do average sum of unilateral. Okay? And then I'm just going to call this stdev unilateral. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the equal sign. And then if I start typing in mean, because I want to take the average, there's nothing there. But if I type in average, Excel has a keyword for this. Okay? So I can take the average, and so I can double click there, or I can just finish typing it in, whatever works for you. And then what I can do is I can select each one of these. Oh, but that's a pain. But I told you that there was a little trick to select everything between two cells, and that's with the colon. Okay, boom, there we go. So now I can take the average of H3 colon H12, so all the way through there. All right, and then I can take the standard deviation doing the same way. ST D E V. Oh, but there's two. So we've got a population standard deviation or a sample standard deviation. So I want to think about why would I want to use a population standard deviation. So let's think about, like, I have all of the giraffes in the world, and they're all in a pen. I don't know why I picked giraffes. I really don't even. They're kind of weird, funky looking too. Let's be real. But I've got all of the giraffes in the world in this pen. Okay, so we could say that I know the exact size of the population of giraffes, and I could take a sample of that population, or I could just take the measurement on all of the giraffes. Okay? And so this example doesn't make any sense when we are doing taking the sum of these force data or the EMG data, because we don't know all of the possible forces, or we don't have a measure of all of the possible forces. So we just have a sample of all of the possible summed forces. And so that's why we're going to pick S. Pretty much every time you're going to take the standard deviation of a sample, because very rarely, like, it's almost impossible to get all of the giraffes in the world in a single location or measure all of the giraffes in the world. So generally, we almost never use a population. So we'll use the sample there. Okay, so now I'm going to take these and I'm going to copy and paste for the EMG. And then I'm going to copy and paste in here. But then I'm going to click in and I've got to change this to bilateral. Whoops. And then we'll click in here. And then we'll do bilateral. Okay, so copy and paste in. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the bar graphs. Okay, and so what that's going to look like is like this. So we're going to take the average sum unilateral, average sum of the bilateral, and we're going to insert our, whoops, that's a histogram. We don't want a histogram. We want 2D columns. And here we go. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I've got this one. I'm going to delete the chart title, and I'm going to delete the grid lines the same as we did in the last video. I'm going to go back to the home tab, and I'm going to increase the size of this to 14, and I'm going to increase the size of this to 14, and then I'm going to actually go back here to chart design. I'm going to add a chart element, and I'm going to add vertical axis title. Okay, and what that's going to be is going to be force in newtons. All right, for the average sum of the unilateral and then the average sum of the bilateral. Boy, I was sandbagging it for this one compared to that first one. Ugh. Don't sandbag, guys. It's not a good thing. All right, so here we go. Whoops. And I want to increase the font size there to 16 or 18. Okay, cool. So there's our first one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the average sum of the unilateral and the average sum of the bilateral. I'm going to insert our, whoops, old habits. I almost always go to scatter plots. I'm going to go here. Okay. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing. You'll notice I haven't done the error bars yet. I'm saving that for the next video. Because this video, in the previous attempts that I've had at this have gone like 10 to 12 minutes. So I want to try and keep it down just a little bit. So we're going to bring that up 14 so that they're the same. That to 14. And then I'm going to click in here. I'm going to go back to chart design. I'm going to add my chart element, and I'm going to do vertical axis title. Go back to home. Increase the size of that to 16. And then I'm going to call that EMG in volts. Okay, so here we go. Here are our two graphs, and for the next video, it should be fairly short. We're going to insert our individual error bars for each of these graphs. All right, we'll catch you soon.